W5FC. ARRLNTS Net Monthly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And it is indeed time for Skynet. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin? I know it's been quiet, but you never know. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX. My name is Tom. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. and concerns the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic and encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me this evening, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency of 146.88 megahertz with a field tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible by using, I lost my place, by using W5FC, using the Echolink for check-ins, W5FC-R station 19. As the station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, and other information is available by going to w5fc.org right now. That's the club website for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, as I mentioned. Look for the Skynet announcement and click on the hot link to check in. It sits right below the title, So just go ahead and click on it, and you can check in that way. But don't worry. If you'd like to check in the old-fashioned way, we still do that, too. That's over the air. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is generally 90 minutes long. It's broken up into several different parts. We have general announcements. That's anybody with announcements that they would like to bring to the net. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening, that's selected by the NCS, that's me, was space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and if we have time, an astronomical Q&A and a 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. And so far, we have the following people checked in. Myself, KE5ICX. By the way, I'm down in Corpus Christi, Texas, after the big beach to bay marathon relay. That was a lot of fun. Next is Tony, NT5PM in East Dallas. N5PD, Bill over in Irving, and Robert in Richardson, AA5AH. So now what I'll do is I will take any short-time check-ins. These are folks that will have to leave and can't remain for the net. This will give you an opportunity for any announcements you might have. So if you're short time and you'd like to check in now, please come with your call sign, name, and your location. Short time only, please.
This is November 5 Tango X-Ray November, James in Frisco.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill Farmers Branch.
Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob also Farmers Branch. All right, let me go and hold up there and let me get to 3. I got checked in so far. N5TXN, James in Frisco. KF5ZBL, that's Bill over in Farmers Branch. KG5UFO, Jay. Your location again, please? I don't think I quite got it. I hope I got your name right, too. Yeah, Roger, Roger. It's Kilo, Golf 5. Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, and the name is Jacob. You're in Farmers Branch. Thank you. Now I recognize call sign KG5UFRJ. I got you checked in. Sorry about that. I will now take general check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf Ski Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton. This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus for Northeast Dallas. November 5 Mike Tango Victor Chad in Garland.
Alpha Bravo 5 Delta Mike, Dustin in Dallas.
Okay, there's pause in the action. Let me go ahead and start. I'm a little rusty with call signs, guys, so I'll need a fill. James, KG5. I've got Victor Lima. Can you fill it in for me, please?
Yes, Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima.
Over in North Carrollton. Okay, I should know that after all these years, but I only get on the radio once a week now, and this is it, so sorry about that. Next up is W5TUS, that's Gus, far northeast Dallas. N5M TV, that's Chad and Garland. AB5DM, Dustin in Dallas. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign name where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, MSG.
And we picked up N50F, Clay, over in Mesquite. Okay, let's see here. We'll move over to Echolink and All-Star Link. If you're on either of those two systems and would like to check in, I think we got everybody checked in of our regulars, but I may be wrong. I'll give you a few extra seconds if you're out there on those digital modes. Echolink or All-Star Link, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time since there's a little bit of a delay in decoding. Okay, as I suspected, I think everybody's checked in from Echolink. I'll go ahead and open it up to anyone, any mode. If you'd like to join us, if not yet checked in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, I guess it's going to be just a quiet evening tonight. I don't know how TechNet went this evening. I was asleep, but maybe it's just a little quieter this time of the year. We'll see. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I will take general announcements. If you have any general announcements for this evening's net, they can be of ham, astronomical, space, or of interest to lights and fans. Please come to your call sign now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
And G5TM, Tony, go ahead with your announcements, please.
Thank you, Tom. I hope you had a great time at your run. I had a great time at my public service event. I hope Randy had a great time at NCS. It's been a good day for radio. I hope it's going to be a good day for nets, but we've got some challenges here. The Afterglow movie discussion later tonight at about 10:30 or 10:35 p.m. will focus on the movie Heavy Metal 2000 from, you guessed it, the year 2000. Really, don't watch this movie if you haven't seen it already. It was disgusting, and it gave me a nightmare. You really should just listen to the rest of us talk about how the makers of Heavy Metal 2000 completely missed the point of the first movie. Or, if you like dribbly, squishy cartoon intestines, you can take up the other side of the argument. Yeah, let's see how you do that. On a much better note, with far fewer intestines, there will be a DARC meeting on the air at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. That's 7 p.m. Sunday, and a RACES training net at 8 p.m. after the meeting on the air. Anyone, anywhere, who would like to share what's been going on in their ham world is very welcome to check in to the 7 p.m. meeting on the air, and everyone is also welcome to listen to the RACES training net. But of course, only RACES appointees can check into that 8 p.m. net. This Monday will feature Ham Fixin's The Second Helping. Now, as much venom as I tried to put into my voice about the Afterglow movie discussion, the Ham Fixin's net is the only net that I seriously give together with a safety warning. Please eat before the net. Listening to an hour of recipes, cooking tips, and kitchen stories will make you hungry if you're not prepared. You have been warned. Although, honestly, getting hungry during the net is kind of fun. I really often enjoy cooking after the net. If you're brave or hungry or just curious about learning more about cooking, please join us at 7 p.m. this Monday. I always try to check in, and it's always worth it. NT 5 p.m. back to net.
Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you for the warning for the Afterglow Movie Net. I'm going to attend it and give it a title. And the title I like to give, because I'm probably going to end up being net control for that one, is What Were They Thinking? ? And we're going to expand that conversation out to talk about sequels to movies and what the heck goes wrong with sequels to movies, this being our poster child for the evening. We will talk about the movie, but I was shocked at how completely different it was. I was not expecting what we got. And I'm wondering why. So maybe there's a systemic thing with sequels that have a tendency to do that. But at any rate, that'll be part of our discussion. Okay. We also have a few announcements, regular announcements. Don't forget the AMSAT nets on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all things about amateur satellites that you can use in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net is a net will bring up some of the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. To do this one, it's a VHF net, so you'll and it is out of Houston, so you'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You'll find it under groups called AMSAT with an asterisk before and after. There is also a live audio link available on their website. Just go to amsatnet.com, and then that originates in Houston, Texas. There's 2 local nets available here in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins, which means you can ask questions of the net control as well as others who are checked in. There is AMSAT Net East in Dallas, Fort Worth, Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater. Tom HYP, N5HYP is the net control, and all are welcome to check in. On the first Tuesday of the month, the AHC Club night, there is no AMSAT Net East. Now, there is an AMSAT Net West every week, and Wednesday at 9 o'clock on the Arlington repeater, which is 147.140 megahertz with a PO tone, .110.9, and that's with a positive offset. Now, Tony mentioned the net's upcoming Monday night net. I will just paraphrase and say there's a different net and a different topic every Monday evening at 7 p.m., and you're welcome to check in. We talk about all sorts of different things. Let's see, we have Saturday night is our night of nets, which we mentioned, TechNet, followed by Skynet, and then this evening the Afterglow Movie Net. Daily, we have the ARRL, hold on one second. We have the daily, the National Traffic System Training Net, or NTS. That's every night at 6:30 p.m. You can learn about message traffic. It's handled on this formal training net. Now, the good news is, if you're a newbie, brand new to amateur radio, not sure about your first contact, or you're not sure what a formal training net is, which is a sort of a gateway towards HF and how they handle nets over long distances, this is the net you want to be a part of. It's conducted every evening at 6:30 p.m., 7 days a week. There's also a regular net, NTS evening net on the Irving repeater. That's W5CKF. That's 146.72 megahertz with 9:30 p.m. start time. All are welcome to check in any and all of those nets. So here's my highly accurate information on tonight's offerings for the Afterglow movie net, and it goes as follows. Hey man, said the stoner to his fellow, other stoners, anyone want to watch heavy metal? Everyone looked around, seeing if indeed there was any heavy metal on the floor, or whether they should watch it. The lead stoner clarified the situation. No, man, it's not something, it's a movie. You know, the one that has pictures and sound and people in it, doing stuff. They all nodded in agreement. Somehow something had gotten through to them, though not much in the way of useful information. It says here Heavy Metal 2000. I don't think that's the year it came out. Oh, wait, it says Heavy Metal 2000, which means it came out in the year 4000, or maybe the year 0. I'm not sure which, but it was either before or after I was born. They looked confused and started looking for lost heavy metal on the floor. You know, it's heavy, so it must be on the floor. Whether our heroes actually see this movie or not doesn't matter, because we will, and we'll be discussing it tonight. Heavy Metal 2000 from the year 2000 tonight at 10:30 p.m. If you dare want to watch it, or if you're just looking for sort of a weird, squishy, gooey thing to watch while watching or while talking on Skynet, just go to the hot link that's actually under Skynet, and you'll find it underneath the particulars on check-in information. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which is w5fc.org. Does anyone need any fills? Please come now. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and ask, although it was just recently here, but I'll ask again. Anyone else like to check in this evening? Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, Bill, it's Garland.
Okie dokie, we picked up one more. We got W5BLT, that's Mr. Bill over in Garland. Thank you for checking in, and I bet you've got a lot to say about tonight's movie, because Bill is also a regular there as well. Okay, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to send this over to, we usually have Chaz who does that, but he is at the Texas Star Party, so he will not be on tonight. So Bill, N5DD, is going to be acting as Chaz. So if you would, Bill, please tell us about what Texas Astronomical Society is doing. And then after that, if you'd like to continue with your section, you are more than welcome to do so. So Bill, N5DD, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Yes, I'm acting instead of Chaz. And Chaz normally is Bob the Cat. Tonight, I've got the virtual Bob the Cat in a box. It's a Schrodinger's kind of situation, so we don't really know. It's Schrodinger's cat. We don't really know if the cat is alive or dead. So it might be Bob the Cat, or there might not be Bob the Cat in the box. Anyway, no cat is stepping on my keyboard tonight. So, slide number 1. On May the 22nd, 2026, we have the next Texas Astronomical Society meeting at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. And it'll also be held on Zoom. Don't know who the featured speaker will be. Don't know what the topic will be. Texas Astronomical City Host Society hosts Saturday night public observing stations in the area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there would be an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing sessions. On the third Saturday of the month, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Do we have a ham radio operator at stargazing at Cedar Hill that'd like to make a report? Nothing heard. Check the TAS website, www.texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. Sessions, I mean. Slide number 2, please. What would you call a week-long gathering of hundreds of amateur and professional astronomers from all over the world in one of the darkest night skies in North America? The Texas Star Party, of course. Slide number 2, please. And thank you. And the annual event has been going on for decades, since 1979, near Fort Davis, Texas. Chaz has attended about half of the annual gatherings since 2006. You can expect observing under dark skies at night, sleep in the mornings, professional and amateur presentations in the afternoon, private behind-the-scenes tour of McDonald Observatory, horseback riding if you want, and there's even a ham radio shack that us amateur radio operators can use. This year, the Texas Star Party runs from Sunday, May the 10th, that was last Sunday, through Sunday, May the 17th, which is tomorrow. More information and details about the event, so it's a little bit late to go now. More information and details about the event can be found at texasstarparty.org. Chaz will be missing from Skynet due to the Texas Star Party. N5BB Bill is impersonating Chaz to cover his segments on these Saturdays. Slide number 3, please. Here are a couple of pictures that Chaz has taken so far of the Texas Star Party. On the left is an open-air cluster M35 located in the constellation of Gemini. The picture on the right is Centaurus A, also known as the Hamburger Galaxy. Oh boy, I'm getting hungry already. Slide number 4, please. Here are 2 more pictures. The left side picture is the western part of the Veil Nebula, which is a supernova remnant in Cygnus. On the right is M81 and M82, which are galaxies located in Ursa Major. By the way, when I say slide, if you go to the W5FC.org, Dallas Amateur Radio Club website, under Skynet, you'll find a YouTube link where you too can see a live presentation going on during this net. This is N5BB, back to net control, and I got another section coming up, Tom.
Bill, you have my permission. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. I was just pausing to get a swig of iced tea. National Space Society events and activities. Myself, Bill Byram, N5BB. I'm the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. The National Space Society, and by the way, that website hasn't been updated in a long time. You're looking at something from over a year ago. The National Space Society is a non-profit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. This is a Beltline across the highway from Irving Mall. Our next chapter meeting will be on Sunday, June the 14th. The topic will be the Orion capsule and the launch abort system by Ernest Levert, who is retired from Lockheed Martin. That should be very interesting, but I will be out of town on my travels. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. 7 people attended the April event. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday, May the 29th. I will see you there. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. ISDC 2026 will be held in McLean, Virginia, which is not far from Washington, D.C. The dates are June 4th through 7th of this year. The website is isdc.nss.org. The theme for ISDC 2026, thank you, Tom, is Space for Us All. 5 astronauts are attending. Harrison Schmitt, who was one of the last 2 astronauts to walk on the moon during Apollo 17. He's really old, but he's going to be at our meeting. Michael Lopez Alegria, Hoot Gibson, Susan Kilrain, and Dr. Stephen Hawley. That's right, 5 astronauts, and you can meet them. You can get, some of them you'll be able to get signatures. They're signing their books. You can buy a book they've written and get it signed by them right there in front of you. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at my QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. That's all I've got, Tom. Back to the net. This is N5BB. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bill, and thanks for doing the segments this evening. I do appreciate it very, very much. So the discussion topic of the evening has to do with, before we do that, let me go ahead and take additional check-ins. I've got Billy, KSI PDF. She's over at Echolink and has checked in. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now. Okay, we'll go ahead and get going. Discussion topic of the evening. I was thinking about what might be an interesting topic, and I looked through the space history for this week, and this is one that's a personal one for me. I saw the final launch of a Saturn V, which was the Skylab 1 mission, way back on May 14th, 1973. And I found an article on it, and I wanted to talk about the ascent to orbit, or what was called in an article that was put out on AmericanSpace.com, a few telemetry glitches, remembering Skylab's hair-raising ride to space 50 years ago, well, more than 50 years ago now. And this article talks a little bit about it, and I thought, well, let me make it into two parts. We'll talk about what happened on the way to orbit, and then what happened after the orbital space station, or Skylab, was in orbit after that, which is an equally interesting story, but probably not enough time to do both those things in one evening. So I'm going to save my second part for next month. I'll talk about the actual repair mission, which I think you'll find interesting. So this article pretty much covers it, and then I'll tell you my own little personal experiences. This happened a century ago. This week, America came within the whisker of losing its first space station. On the morning of May 14, 1973, the last in a generation of Saturn V heavy-lift boosters sat poised on historic Pad 39A in Florida's Kennedy Space Center, or KSC, awaiting its voyage into space. Visually, however, this Saturn V was quite distinct from its predecessors in that it consisted of two stages rather than the usual three. And in place of what would have been the S-4B third stage was the Skylab space station, capped by a bullet-like shroud to facilitate protection against aerodynamic stresses on the vehicle during ascent. The ominous brewing clouds at the Cape that May morning carried great menace, but everyone knew the Saturn V's near impeccable reliability. Despite one troubled launch early in its career, it had flawlessly sent 9 crews of astronauts safely to the moon. It had also executed the nation's first manned night launch, and its unmanned swan song, for its unmanned swan song, it was expected that the great rocket would perform to its usual perfection. The 363-foot tall Saturn V had been sitting on the pad since April of 1973, undergoing checks and countdown simulations. The Skylab's first crew, Commander Charles P. Conrad, science pilot Joe Kerwin, and pilot Paul Weitz, was on hand at the Cape to watch the station steer skyward before themselves launched into orbit the next day for the record-breaking 4-week mission. At 1:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the 5 F1 engines of the Saturn V for S1C first stage thundered alive, shaking the Florida ground with 7.7 million pounds of thrust that made it the most powerful rocket ever brought to operational status. And the Saturn V's record went unbroken until last November's maiden voyage of, well, this is 2 years ago now, maiden voyage of the Space Launch System, or SLS, and the moon-bound Artemis 1 mission. After a few seconds, the mighty Saturn lumbered clear of Pad 39A and vanished into a deck of thick, iron-gray clouds, trailing an immense tongue of golden flame. It looked great, Kerwin wrote in his book, Homesteading Space, and fellow Skylab astronauts Owen Garriott and Jack Lozma headed to Patrick Air Force Base to pick up a T-38 jet for their return flight to Houston. As the pair walked towards their rental car, they met Rocco Petroni, then head of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, who notified them of, quote, a few telemetry glitches as the Saturn V made its way to space. The astronauts did not ponder Petroni's words for too long. As they gained altitude on their return flight to Houston, Garriott and Lozma had every confidence that Skylab would soon settle smoothly into orbit. A minute after leaving Pad 39A, the Saturn V had gone supersonic, as expected, before passing through a period of peak aerodynamic turbulence or pressure, known as max Q, during which atmospheric forces on the rocket reached their most extreme. It was a few seconds later that telemetry indicated that something was not right. The data almost went unnoticed, but indicated that Skylab's protective micrometeorite shield and one of its twin solar arrays had deployed prematurely. If the telemetry was for real and was not an instrumentation glitch, it signaled very bad news. Under such extreme aerodynamic duress, the shield and the array would be torn off, and the station's future prospects would be thrown into doubt. But the Saturn V continued to fly straight and true, its S2 second stage picking up the baton to boost Skylab towards low Earth orbit. And at 1:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the station was released from the rocket at an altitude of 270 miles, about 1,100 miles downrange of the Cape and high above the Atlantic Ocean. The payload shroud was jettisoned on time, and at 1:47 Eastern Daylight, electric motors rotated Skylab's Apollo Telescope Mount, or ATM, out 90 degrees, locking it into place and unfurling its windmill of 4 solar arrays. Before launch, the ATM deployment was categorized as a major technical concern, yet it had been executed without a whimper. All had gone well. The mysterious bit of telemetry about the micrometeorite shield and the number 2 solar array almost went unnoticed. Then, an hour into the flight, Mission Control spotted erratic signals from Skylab. At that point, the number 1 and number 2 arrays should have been deployed, but the data suggested otherwise. Both arrays should have begun producing about 12.4 kilowatts of energy, or some 60% of the station's power, but controllers were dismayed to see that the levels were much lower, averaging only 25 watts. The data indicated that both arrays had released but had not fully extended into position, with temperature levels implying that one array had either been torn off or had suffered some kind of severe structural failure. As the team watched their data over the next few hours, they reached the inescapable conclusion that the micrometeorite shield had indeed failed, and a troublesome solar array had created a significant power shortfall. But the micrometeorite shield had a secondary duty to provide thermal control. Its external face carried a black and white pattern to absorb heat, while its internal face and the hull of Skylab itself was covered in gold foil to regulate heat flow between them. So long as the heat shield remained in place, the system would have thus kept the station on the cooler side of the comfort zone, but its absence would create an uninhabitable condition with external temperatures already peaking at 82 degrees Celsius. That's 179 degrees Fahrenheit, and internal temperatures of 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Engineers confidently predicted that these temperatures would likely climb even higher, endangering the astronauts, food stocks, camera films, and perhaps even the physical structure of Skylab itself. Moreover, internal materials, including polyurethane foam and fiberglass, carried an elevated risk of outgassing, and this could produce highly toxic contaminants like toluene cyanate, and temperatures above 200 degrees Celsius or 390 degrees Fahrenheit would begin to break down and release toxicity into the Skylab atmosphere. Hours after Skylab's launch, NASA canceled the plans to May 15th flight of Conrad, Kerwin, and White, their Saturn 1B rocket with its Apollo Command Service Module, CSM. The top was poised at KSC's Pad 39B, with the countdown clock previously halted at T-minus 14 hours, now recycled to T59 hours and held indefinitely. Based upon Skylab's orbital geometry, launch options arose every 5 days, and Conrad's crew was rescheduled to fly no sooner than 20th of May. managers began to contemplate a 17-day nominal mission, with the astronauts spending the final 11 days of their flight in minimal activity to gather the required 4 weeks of medical data. As the entire NASA and contractor workforce entered high gear to develop methods and tools to bring the crippled space station back from the brink of disaster, one thing remained certain: Conrad, Kerwin, and White needed to get to Skylab, and fast. And next month we'll discuss how that rescue mission was mounted and implemented. So I was going to mention just some personal things. I was actually in high school then, and I managed to convince my parents that this would be a good opportunity to go see the final Saturn V launch. And I got out of school a little bit early in order to do that, and they did comply because I would make their lives miserable, and then especially as a teenager, I could make it doubly miserable. So we went down to see the flight. And as mentioned in the article, we watched, and I remembered on Apollo 12 when we had clouds come in, and then it actually hit the spacecraft, caused power outage on the command module as it went to orbit during a thunderstorm. This one was not a thunderstorm, but it was rain clouds passing over the Cape, which meant that we did not get visuals of any kind of the Saturn V going to orbit. Every other mission we did. And this was one that was quite interesting in the fact that there was pieces of the rocket coming off the orbital workshop, or the Skylab. And if you were looking at some of the video that we were streaming, it shows the section of the heat shield peeling off. It's an illustration, of course, and then going and hitting the rocket. There was also some additional interesting things that happened as well. There's the interstage between the second and first stage. If you've seen any of the old Apollo orbital insertion video from the unmanned, you'll see that there was a big ring that came off. Well, that ring was stuck on the base of the second stage and was dragged to orbit with the space station, which was quite, and they found that out because the rockets, the rocket engines were running at a higher temperature than normal as it went to orbit. So there was that as well, and I think they had to burn the engines a little bit longer to get it to orbit, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. After that, the interesting thing, too, was we were supposed to go back and see that launch of the Saturn 1B the following day, and of course it was canceled. But it was one of those rare times we could see both Pad 39A and B as active pads, and they've been the only time in history that occurred. There were two shuttle missions early in the 80s, mid-80s, I should say, where there were two on the pad. I guess that would be considered technically active, but both these vehicles were ready to go. The next one would have flown 24 hours later. But I did not, and went back to home, although I did get to meet a NASA engineer the following day, which was pretty cool. And we'll probably talk about that story on the next one, too, because I kept in contact with the guy from NASA for a few more years after that, which was pretty interesting. But I'll tell you that story next month. Okay, that was it. Does anyone have any questions or any comments about the Skylab little technical difficulties that turned out not to be too little in my presentation? Please come to your call now. All right, well, we will go on to the next session. We have Bill, N5BV, who is performing Chaz, KF5JJ, who is at the Texas Star Party this evening. So I'll call upon Bill, N5BV. Please give us your rendition, best Chaz rendition about What Is Up from KE5 ICS.
Yes, this is N5BB. Tonight I am Chaz's evil twin. Okay, was up? Slide number 5, please, slide master. So this is Bill in 5BD. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up, because it's about what has gone on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide number 6. Chaz has talked about the predicted nova of the star Tau CRB, which may erupt at any time. Personally, I'm getting bored because all the predictions have proven untrue. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. Tau CRB was supposed to go nova more than a year and a half ago, according to some reports. One recent prediction was for TCRB to go nova on November the 10th, 2025. That did not happen. Another prediction is on June the 25th, 2026, plus or minus a few days. But when it goes nova, TCRB could become as bright as a North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. Chaz can see the North Star with just his eyes from his very light-polluted location in Mesquite. And if you've never seen the North Star, you just haven't looked for it. Slide number 7. This image of the sun was taken on May the 13th, 2026, 3 days ago, from the website spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun has passed its 11-year solar maximum in October 2024, and Chaz presented information on the solar cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet. Slide number 8. New moon is on today, May 16th. On May the 17th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that it is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 358,075 kilometers. First quarter moon is on May the 23rd. Full moon is on May the 31st. On May the 31st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 406,366 kilometers. Slide number 9, please. On May the 18th, we will have a conjunction of Moon and Venus in the west-northwestern evening sky. Slide number 10. May 20th, another conjunction of the Moon, Jupiter, and Pollux in the western evening sky. These are coming fast, Tom. Slide number 11. May the 21st. A conjunction of Saturn, Neptune, Pallas, Vesta, and the eastern morning sky. And slide number 12, May the 23rd, 2026. Conjunction of the moon and Regulus in western morning sky. Slide number 13, May the 27th. Conjunction of the moon and Spica in west-southwestern morning sky. Slide number 14th, on May the 31st. Conjunction of moon and the Antares in the south-southwestern morning sky. That's too many conjunctions for such a small amount of time. Excuse me. Air quality is bad. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Slide number 15. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill for any of the information? Or do you have a general astronomy question? I probably can't answer it, but somebody else might. Please come now with your call sign if you have a question. That's very good, because my bucket of answers is empty. It got emptied earlier today. Slide number 16. So as the moon wanes, so do these words in this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time, actually, I will be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. This is N5BB 73, back to net control.
All right, thank you, Bill, and he'll be right back here in a little bit. So next up is space exploration and space history. That's handled by Gus, W5GUF. Gus, you're up. Tell us from KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here with Space Exploration News. Let's see, starting May 15th, the Psyche spacecraft successfully performed a critical gravity assist maneuver at Mars, passing within 2,800 miles of the planet's surface. This maneuver provided the necessary velocity to slingshot the craft toward the metal-rich asteroid Psyche, which is expected to reach in 2029. Mission controllers confirmed the spacecraft is in good health and following its intended trajectory after the high-speed flyby and slingshot maneuver. All right, May 15th, SpaceX launched its 12th flight of its Starship system from Starbase, Texas, marking the debut of the upgraded version 3 architecture. This new iteration features more powerful Raptor 3 engines and structural refinements designed to increase payload capacity and improve reliability. The flight tested several new entry protocols and provided valuable data for the program's goal of rapid and complete reusability. All right, May 13th, NASA announced a strategic shift for the Artemis 3 mission, which will now focus on a high Earth orbit test rather than a lunar landing. It sounds like old news, but evidently they made it an official announcement May the 13th. The revised mission will prioritize testing critical docking and rendezvous capabilities between the Orion spacecraft and commercial lunar landers. This change aims to reduce risk and mature the technology required for the subsequent crewed landing missions on the moon. Okay, May the 11th, 2026, a Falcon 9 rocket successfully lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base, carrying a hush-hush mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. It is part of a proliferated architecture designed to enhance the resilience and capability of the U.S. intelligence gathering satellites. The first stage of the Falcon 9 performed a flawless landing back at the launch site after delivering its classified payload. All right, and May 15th, China successfully launched and docked its Tianzhou 10 cargo spacecraft with the Tiangong Space Station. This mission delivered essential supplies, scientific equipment, and propellant to support the ongoing residency of the station's crew. The Tianzhou 10 is slated for a record-breaking 12-month stay, demonstrating China's commitment to long-term orbital operations and logistics. Okay, we'll move on to space-related birthdays. May 10th, 1958, Ellen Ochoa was born. She, as the first Hispanic woman in space, she participated in 4 shuttle missions focusing on atmospheric and solar research. She also played a key role in the first shuttle docking with the ISS and later served as the director of Johnson Space Center. Okay, May 10th, 1963, Lisa Nowak was born. She served as a mission specialist on a critical return-to-flight mission that tested shuttle safety procedures after the Columbia disaster. During the mission, she was the primary operator of the shuttle and station robotic arms for cargo transfer and heat shield inspection. All right, May 12th, 1962, Gregory Johnson was born, and he piloted the Endeavour on its final flight, which delivered the alpha magnetic spectrometer to the International Space Station. His first mission also delivered the first segment of the Japanese Kaibo Laboratory and the Canadian Dexter robotic system. Okay, May 13th, 1942, Vladimir Dzhanebekov was born. This veteran commander is famous for performing a daring manual docking to rescue the quote, dead Salyut 7 space station after the space station lost power. He flew 5 missions in total, including the first flight to visit a crew already in space, which was on the Salyut 6 station. Okay, May 13th, 1957, Claudie Hayengenry was born. She was the first French woman in space, visiting the Mir space station to conduct physiology and biology experiments. She later became the first European woman to visit the International Space Station during the Andromeda mission back in 2001. Also May 13th, but in 1956, Alexander Kaleri was born. He's a Russian veteran. He spent over 769 days in space across 5 missions, including the final human mission to the Mir space station. He also served on several long-duration expeditions to the ISS as a flight engineer. Okay, May 14th, 1957, William Gregory was born. He served as the pilot on the Astro 2 mission, which set a record for the longest space shuttle flight during the duration at that time. The mission utilized 3 ultraviolet telescopes in the cargo bay to observe various astronomical objects and phenomena. Okay, May 14th, but a few years later, 1964, James Kelly was born. He piloted the first return-to-flight mission after the Columbia accident, testing new techniques for shuttle inspection and repair. He also helped deliver the Expedition 2 crew to the ISS while returning the Expedition 1 crew back to Earth. Okay, May 14th, 1988, Jessica Watkins was born. She is a geologist, became the first black woman to complete a long-duration mission on the International Space Station. She spent several months in orbit as a mission specialist, conducting various scientific experiments and station maintenance. Okay, May 15th, 1959, Maurizio Celli was born. He represented the European Space Agency as a mission specialist on a flight that featured the reflight of the tethered satellite system. The mission also involved significant microgravity research using the U.S. microgravity payload. Okay, May 16, 1964, a name you've heard before, Scott Kelly. He's best known for his historic one-year mission to the ISS, which provided vital data on how the human body adapts to long-term spaceflight. He also commanded multiple missions and participated in the high-stakes Hubble Space Telescope servicing flight. Okay, and we'll move on to This Week in Space History. Okay, May the 10th, 1946, the U.S. launched its first dedicated space research flight using a captured German V-2 rocket, and it launched from the White Sands Missile Range. This pioneering mission carried cosmic radiation experiments into the upper atmosphere to collect data on high-energy particles. It marked a significant transition from military rocket development to the scientific exploration of the space environment. The success of this flight helped lay the groundwork for the future of the American space program, and this event is considered one of the earliest milestones in the history of space-based science. Okay, May 15th, 1963, Gordon Cooper launched aboard the Faith 7 capsule, marking the 6th and final mission of NASA's Project Mercury. And during this historic flight, Cooper became the first American to spend an entire day in space. And the last to fly solo on an orbital mission. He completed 22 orbits around the Earth, proving that humans could survive and work in space for extended durations. The mission faced a critical failure of the automatic control system, forcing Cooper to perform a manual re-entry and splashdown. And his precision during this manual maneuver, demonstrated the vital role of human pilots in space. Okay, May 15, 1958, Soviet Union launched a Sputnik 3, a large conical spacecraft equipped with a wide array of scientific instruments. It was designed as a complete space laboratory to study the Earth's upper atmosphere, magnetic field, and cosmic radiation. Although it was originally intended to be the first Soviet satellite, technical delays led to the simpler Sputnik 1 being launched first. The Sputnik 3 provided a wealth of data about the Van Allen radiation belts and the density of the ionosphere. It remained in orbit for nearly 2 years, showcasing the Soviet Union's early lead in sophisticated satellite technology. Okay, May 14th, 2010, Space Shuttle Atlantis lifted off for its final planned mission, STS-132, delivering the Russian research module to the ISS. This mission was a key part of the final assembly stages of the International Space Station, enhancing its scientific and storage capabilities. The crew performed 3 spacewalks to install the new module and replace the aging batteries on the station's truss. And while Atlantis was later approved for 1 additional bonus flight, this mission was celebrated as a milestone in the shuttle's 25-year history. It highlighted the successful international cooperation that defines the modern era of space exploration. Okay, and the last entry for this week's edition concerns the Skylab space station mission that Tom was talking about. So we'll let him give the final details next time. But for this time, we'll wrap this up with the May 14th, 1973 Skylab space station was launched into orbit atop a modified Saturn V rocket, marking the start of a new era in long-duration space flight. The launch was nearly a disaster, as Tom mentioned, when the station's micrometeoroid shield and one of its solar arrays were ripped off during ascent. Its damage caused the internal temperature to skyrocket and left the station with severely limited power. The first crewed mission was delayed while engineers on Earth scrambled to design tools and procedures for an emergency repair. And the subsequent success of repair, spoiler alert, the subsequent success of the repair mission by the crew became a legendary example of NASA's ingenuity and problem solving. And with that, we'll pass it back to Net Control. Tom, W5GUS.
Very good. Thank you, Gus. And this is KE5ICX Tom. I'm Net Control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see, I guess we can pause for a moment, see if there's any additional check-ins. If you would like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. So quiet tonight. Okay, we'll move on to the next segment. This one also is usually Chaz, so Chaz will be played by Bill, N5BB, and it is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So Bill, N5BB, you are up.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Remember, I am not a real Chaz. I just play one on the radio. Okay, this is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This is Bill, N5BB. Slide number 17. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn Womack, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellations of the week this week are Coma Berenices, Bernice's Hair, and Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs. I'm not very good at Italian. Slide number 18. Warning, warning, Will Robinson, jokes of the week. Again, these are from Chaz, they're not from me. Why are not dogs good dancers? Because dogs have two left feet. How do dog catchers get paid? By the pound. Which dog always knows what time it is? A watchdog. Why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use a honeycomb. How does Moses style his hair? With a parting. And this is obviously old from the pandemic. Because of lockdown, my hair has never been longer, but it is really starting to grow on me. Oh yes, hold down the groans now. And it's time for slide number 19. The constellations of Coma Berenices and Canis Venatici can be found tonight almost directly overhead, between the constellations of Boots and Leo. There are lots of things to take note of in these constellations. We'll talk about several things. Chaz initially had 9 pages of information on these constellations, but he's cut it down to 2 pages, which is good for me. That way we might have time for the other segments on Skynet tonight. Slide number 20. Coma Berenices was recognized as an asterism, which used to belong to the constellation Leo. Tycho Brahe was the first to recognize it as a distinct constellation. The constellation is one of the few constellations to be named after a historical figure. In this case, is named after Queen Berenice II of Egypt, the wife of Ptolemy III. Slide number 21. Malat 111 is the Coma star. Coma star cluster, visible to the naked eye because it's made up of 5th and 6th magnitude stars. It is a real cluster and not a chance alignment of stars. It is also known by the designations of Calendar 256. The cluster consists of about 80 members scattered across about 5 degrees of the sky. It is 260 light years away, and the cluster is one of the nearest open clusters. For many people, the cluster is not just in Coma Berenices, it is Coma Berenices. Slide number 22. Next is M53, which is a compact globular cluster. It looks like a fuzzy star and 80 millimeter refractor at 8 times magnification. It's 16 times, it has some width, and at 38 times magnification, it has a noticeably brighter core surrounded by a faint, wispy outer regions. But it will not resolve at all. No individual stars are visible. In an 8-inch telescope, however, it just begins to resolve. More apertures needed to better resolve it. It can completely resolve it in a 12-inch or larger telescope. Slide number 23. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet, sponsored by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. M64 is the Black Eye Galaxy. It is in an 80 millimeter telescope, it is just a tiny smudge at 8 times magnification. It takes on a noticeably elliptical shape at 16 times, and in an 8-inch telescope, it has an obvious stellar nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by a fuzzy oval. The dark dust bands that form the black eye are not visible as such, but instead the oval is asymmetric, as if one side of it were cut off parallel to the long axis of the oval. In 12-inch and larger telescopes, it begins to look like its namesake. That's M64, the Black Eye Galaxy. On to slide number 24. Photographs show M88 to be a nice spiral galaxy. It is an obliquely angled spiral, similar to M31, the Andromeda Galaxy. In fact, Stephen J. O'Meara writes that astronomer John Mallis aptly described M88 as resembling the Andromeda Galaxy, depicted in a very small scale photograph. In a 16-inch Dob, that's a Dobsonian telescope, you should see some modeling in M88, but it may be hard to pick out individual dust lanes. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Time for slide 25. The Canis Venatici does not have any bright stars, but it does have some interesting stars. It is a small northern constellation that was created by Johannes Hevelius in the 17th century. Its name is Latin for hunting dogs, and the constellation is often depicted in illustrations as representing the dogs of Bootes, the herdman, the neighboring constellation. Coriolis is the constellation's brightest star, with an apparent magnitude of 2.9, and is a bright binary star. Coriolis, the binary star, it has a combined apparent magnitude of 2.81. The two stars are 19.6 arcseconds apart in the sky and are easily resolved in small telescopes. The system lies approximately 110 light years from the Sun. And from us. Slide number 26. M3 is a wonderful globular cluster. You can find it about halfway between Coriolis and Arcturus. It is easily seen in binoculars and even in smaller telescopes. You can see some of the individual outlying stars. With larger telescopes, 8 inches and larger, you should be able to resolve individual stars clear near to the core. It is about 34,000 light years in distance. Now on to slide number 27. The rest of the deep sky objects are beautiful galaxies. M94 is also known as the Crox-Eye Galaxy. It can be found a little bit north of the halfway point between Alpha and Beta CDN. In 12 or 13-inch telescopes, it appears as a bright, fuzzy comet. Photographs show a beautiful spiral galaxy. It is about 14 million light years away. Slide number 28. M63, the Sunflower Galaxy. When looking at a photograph, it does look like a sunflower. You can find it 1/3 of the way between Corcorelli. Something missing here. Once again, with binoculars, should see it as a very faint, fuzzy object. In small telescopes, it can easily be found. But in 10-inch or larger telescopes with 200 times magnification in good seeing conditions, details can easily be seen. It is 37 million light years away. Now time for slide number 29. N51, the Whirlpool Galaxy, is the showpiece galaxy, located in between the stars Alkaid Corcorelli. I think it means Alkaid and Corcorelli. M51 is located just off the handle of the Big Dipper. It can be easily seen in binoculars in a dark sky location. The graceful winding arms of the majestic spiral galaxy M51 appear like a grand spiral staircase sweeping through space. They are actually long lanes of stars and gas laced with dust. Such striking arms are a hallmark of so-called grand design spiral galaxies. These arms serve as important purpose. They're star-forming factories, compressing hydrogen gas and creating clusters of new stars. Some astronomers think that the Whirlpool's arms are particularly prominent because of the effects of a close encounter with NGC 5195, the small yellowish galaxy at the outermost tip of one of the arms. The compact galaxy appears to be tugging on the arm, the tidal forces from which trigger new star formation. Hubble's clear view shows that NGC 5195 is passing behind M51. The small galaxy appears to have been gliding past the Whirlpool for hundreds of millions of years. Time for slide number 30. And this is November 5 Bravo, and this is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet in progress. On slide number 30, we see that there are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Coma Berenices here, and Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs. I've given you just a sampling of some of these objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate in 10 in about 1 year. Time for slide number 31. And this is the end of Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. Coma Berenices, Bernice's here, and Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs. Chaz want to thank his friends, Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell, for their research and words on the deep sky objects that Chaz has used, borrowed and stolen for every Skynet. Chaz also uses at times the website www.constellation-guide.com for more information. Next week we will take a look at Virgo, the maiden. This is N5BB, Bill saying goodnight in 73. Back to net control. In Corpus Christi, this is N5BB, cleared. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thanks for the last 2 weeks taking Chaz's spot and doing these items. Most appreciated. And this is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's Skynet. We only got a few minutes left. The two segments, fortunately or unfortunately, are loaded, and I'm only going to be able to give you a little bit of information. So I'm going to just hold the two space launches coming up. Now, if you want additional information on satellite passages, just go to, heavensabove.com and plug in your longitude and latitude for that information. There's a ton of stuff out there for this week because we've got good views of reflected satellites in orbit. I'm going to give you just a couple of things coming up. We have Starship Flight 12 on May 19th. AI incorrectly named that mission had already happened. It has not. So be prepared. May 19th is the first day for Flight 12. This will be SpaceX's Starship Super Heavy rocket, collectively referred to as Starship, will launch from Starbase, Texas on a suborbital flight. This will be the 12th flight of the integrated launch vehicle, and the first flight...
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie using Ship 39 upper stage and Booster 19 first stage. As to May 4th, SpaceX hasn't said whether or not it will attempt to catch the Super Heavy. Actually, this has been updated, and no, they will not be catching the Super Heavy back at the launch site. That came in on Friday. We have also Globestar launch on a Falcon 9 rocket on May 20th. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. For the 9th of the Hib-LEO 4 satellites in low Earth orbit. The first of two launches constitute replenishment of the Hib-LEO 4 fleet. Nearly 8.5 minutes after launch, Falcon 9 first stage, launching for the 12th time, will target a landing on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. Let me see. Let me pick one other here that might be of interest. Here's one. This one will be sometime in late summer. It is Flight A008. This is from SLC-2 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. I don't believe I've ever named this one. A Firefly Aerospace Alpha rocket will launch on a mission for a yet unannounced customer. This will be a debut of the Block 2 iteration of the rocket, which features a larger liquid oxygen tanks on both the first and second stages, increasing the overall length of the rocket by 2 meters. And this is launching from SLC-2, which I think has just been made active. Okay, well, it's after our usual time. We'll go ahead and I will ask if there's any additional check-ins before I close out the net. Anyone else wish to join us, please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close it out. Tonight we had 15 hams participating on the air. Thank you for all who checked in this evening. Hope to join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration, because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets, also for presenters. If you would like to try your hand at this or would like to present, you can contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow the topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio-video streams. video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:32 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, there's one more net this evening, is the Afterglow movie net. We'll be talking about Heavy Metal 2000 from the year, surprise, 2000. And we'll also be answering the question, what were they thinking? Talking about sequel movies and why so many of them are so bad. That's coming up in about 5 minutes. Go make some popcorn, microwave, of course. Come back and we have an interesting conversation to discuss. So 5 minutes, folks. Okay, 10 minutes is up, and it's now time for our final net of the evening on this repeater, and it is the Afterglow Movie Net, where we assign a film, discuss the film, or dissect the film, which is probably what this is going to be about this evening. I've had a very long day. I had a very interesting day. I was part of the largest relay marathon. That means a six-man team running 26 miles. Not all of us doing 26 miles, so it's possible. But it was very enjoyable. My segment was the final segment across the finish line, just down the street from where I am right here. I ran past my condominium complex, and I had the 60-plus group. These are the seniors, and we managed to stay alive. I did get a chance to also talk to the South Texas Amateur Radio Club guys, both at segment 5 and at segment 6, and Randy, KE5JIT, was there as one of the net controls, so I got he was there doing his thing, which you may remember from DARC as well. So it was a very exciting day. We had a lot of people from out of town, brought in about 10,000 runners overall, and I think they said it was about $3 million over the last couple of days was spent by people visiting from out of town. Very busy, very fun, one of the major events down here in Corpus Christi. Come down and see us sometime. So, tonight's movie is called Heavy Metal 2000. We had seen Heavy Metal, the regular movie, the original movie, about 6 months ago, I think, and was well received by our group. And as for science fiction standpoint, it was very entertaining and engaging with great music, good special effects or graphics and drawn animations, and we really liked it. So we thought, well, Heavy Metal 2000 is probably pretty good. A number of years between that and when it finally came out. Only to discover, nope, not so much. So let me give you the history about it, and then we will discuss it. Heavy Metal 2000, also known as Heavy Metal FAKK2, outside of North America, is the 2000 Canadian direct-to-video adult animated science fantasy film. I should have told us something right there. Produced by Jacques Cadigru and Michel Lemaire, and directed by Michael Crowley and Lemaire. Starring the voices of Michael Ironside, everybody knows him as a character actor, Daddy, Julie Strain, and Billy Idol, the pop culture icon. The film is a follow-up to the 1981 animated cult film Heavy Metal, which was based on a fantasy magazine of the same name. The story is based on the graphic novel The Melting Pot, written by Kevin Eastman, Simon Beasley, Eric Talbot, and the film was made by Synth Group, a studio based in Montreal, Quebec. They do a lot of original programming in Canada and received generally negative reviews from critics. I will read just the first paragraph here about the plot because this goes on and on. It's an elaborate plot that's not very interesting. And they just have the Arrakicians, a malevolent race, discovered a place where space-time leaked a type of fluid. This fluid granted immortality to anyone who consumed it. They built an empire and enslaved the known universe for centuries. They were finally vanquished. After the fountain chamber where they gathered the water of life was sealed by freedom fighters. The key to the chamber, a glowing green crystal resembling the Lochnar from the original Heavy Metal that can lead the bearer back to the fountain and drives anyone who possesses it insane, and the viewers too, was cast into space and lost among the stars. Well, you know what's going to happen. They're going to find it. There's going to be somebody who's going to be immortal. He's going to be annoying. That's played by Michael Ironside. Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on. We've got dinosaurs that can talk. Crew is dead. A bunch of bungling people that are supposed to be funny but aren't. And, of course, a lot of stabbing and gore. Animated gore, but gore nevertheless. And it goes on and on. I fell asleep. Actually, I had to get up for today's run, so I didn't have much time to, I decided I was not going to watch the rest of it because I was not happy with this movie. Sometimes we get some bummers, but that's the way it goes. On a review aggregator website, Rotten Tomatoes, the film was given an 8% rating based on reviews from 12 critics. Lisa Nesselson of Variety called the plot derivative, but said self-selecting audiences may enjoy it. That's going out on a limb. Writing for Slant Magazine, Jake Cole said, everything here is disconnected and narrating, scuttling the winsome absurdity of the premise. Oh, well, they made a video game out of it, and then they wanted a possible sequel around 2008 and 2009. This was supposed to be done by a couple of people, Robert Rodriguez, who announced it at Comic-Con in 2011 that he had purchased the rights to the heavy metal franchise. With formation of his own television network, El Rey, Rodriguez considered switching gears and bringing it to TV. Fincher and Miller subsequently developed their plans into Love, Death, and Robots, an original animated series on Netflix, initially released in 2019. And the reason I say this is, if you get a chance to see that, that is really an entertaining series. It's well worth the time and effort. Maybe one of these days here in the near future, we will review one of those episodes from Love, Death, and Robots. Very innovative series with varying styles of animation. Well worth your time, unlike this movie. So, enough and no further ado, let's go ahead and get started with check-ins. We will start with your call sign name and did you see the film. But don't worry, we probably won't do a lot of discussion about it, but maybe we will. Who knows? And just talk about sequels in general, why they suck. So please come with your call sign name and did you see tonight's movie, Heavy Metal 2000.
This is Inside BB. I did not see the movie, and I may disappear at any time. So if you call me, I'm not here. I'm gone. Inside BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Yep, I'm going to bed. I hated this movie. Here I go.
Well, this could be a short night. Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. W5BLT Bill with a wounded voice. And wounded movie pride. I got a fourth of the way through. This was awful.
All right, let me go ahead and get those. I got N5BB Bill. No, he didn't see it. NT5TM Tony. No, he didn't see it. And W5BLT Bill with his new radio voice. Yes, he's got about a quarter of the way through it and then decided it wasn't worth it. Okay, anyone else want to join us? We're going to try and discuss with whoever is here. Since nobody liked this film at all, why our topic will probably be, or should be, why do sequels suck? Or what makes them suck? Because this one certainly has many examples of that. Anyone else want to join us? Please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sharon Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this, unfortunately.
Okay, we picked up KB9S. Okay, Sean, Fort Worth. Yes, he admits to seeing the film. Anyone else? Okay, I think this is going to be a short evening for many reasons, but we'll go ahead and start at the top because Bill checked in first, N5BV. Bill, why do sequels suck? What goes wrong with these things? From KD5.
This is N5BV. Well, if Virginia was here, she could probably tell us a lot. My guess is that somebody sees that the original movie somehow clicked, either made money, or if it didn't make money, they say, oh, we can make a really crappy sequel. We'll cut the budget to half of the original movie so that maybe we can still make money just off the name of the original movie. If people go to see the second one thinking it might be better or as good as the first one, we can just have a small budget, make a crappy movie, but we got their money when they walk in the movie theater or when they start the streaming thing, and once we got their movie, they're not going to be able to, claw it back from us. I think that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. If this whole thing had to get advertised and everything on its own without using the original movie's name and maybe some of the people involved in the original movie, if they can't use that charisma or gravitas or whatever you call it, mood created by the original movie, if they can't do that, if they just had to make this movie independently, they'd have a very difficult time. So that's my thought. Now, occasionally, there's somebody that's really a real movie director with real producers behind them, with real money, that have good thoughts and great writers, and, they've made a second movie much better than the original one, and there's a few cases of that. But I think in many cases the opposite thing occurs. They see fast buck, and we're going to make some money no matter how crappy it is, because a few people are just going to watch it based on it's the second in a series. Unfortunately, this can continue. If the second one isn't too bad, people will hope that the third one is maybe a little better, which rarely happens but can. So this is the whole thing. These whole movie series are really in a big rut sometimes. If the first movie and the second one aren't reasonable, then you really shouldn't watch any of the rest of the movies. In this case, it was hard to know because the first movie was reasonably good, and we all hoped the second one would be something of value. Well, in 5BB, that's all my prognostication.
All right, thank you, Bill. I agree with all those comments, and I'll make some additional comments. But you know what? The last thing is the most important one, is that you get hooked into it. We thought the first movie was good, and I was surprised. I was expecting on that first movie that I would be disappointed. And I was in the second movie. It did everything that I was dreading the first movie would have, and it didn't. So I went in with the idea of thinking the second movie would be equally as good, or maybe even better. Nope, incorrect. I have additional comments about that later on. NT5TM, Tony, before you disappear or tear your eyes out, or whatever it is you're going to do after this little comment, tell us what you think. You saw part of the film, I guess, a little bit, 1/4 of it before you said, I can't stand it any longer. Why? From KE5ICX. Boy, I guess he was serious about going to bed. He actually did see part of the film. He mentioned it as such, but I guess he really meant he was headed to bed. Okay, well, we'll move on to Bill, W5DLT. Bill, with your new radio voice, you're a little scratchy into the repeater tonight, which is unusual, but we can pick you up. What say you about the film? You actually admitted to seeing it. What, you want to talk plot or anything else, you might as well go the whole gamut on this film. So go crazy. Tell us what you love and hate about this film. Mainly the hate part. And then you can also tell us about what you think about sequels from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom. I'm fighting off some sort of viral infection, so I'll do my best. I was the one who saw 4th of it. I got a 1/4 of the way through. I think when they got to the planet with the dolls for sale, and I bailed on that. I just thought that's enough. Crazy movie. And you know, I thought that it might have some promise, and you know, Billy Idol was in it. I remember Billy Idol from the 80s. Obviously, he needs to make some money and any way he can, and starring in bad films. The plot we've seen before. There's something that's going to give it, you know, eternal life, make you immortal. We got the evil bad guy that comes down to the planet and tries to wipe everybody out. And the meeting they had where they were telling everybody about how great the crops were going to be and everything like that. And it, for some reason, kind of reminded me of the Battlestar Galactica thing where they're talking about peace in our time, and then the Cylons come in and wipe out the planet. And that's exactly what happens here. They're not Cylons, but bad guys come in and wipe out the planet and kidnap the girl. 30 guys left on the planet, I guess, and then he finds the girl's sister, and she's all tough and everything, and they're going around the universe, and really don't know how the movie ended, because like I said, I bailed on the, when they got to that one planet, and I just said, that's enough. And that's about how I feel about this illness I'm dealing with. It's really quite enough. I think sequels fail in general, because maybe the people that produce it don't have the original idea and the feel of the original writer. I don't know. Of course, some original writers have done sequels and they failed, and you know, really, it's quite amazing that George Lucas didn't fail with Star Wars, the sequels to it, or the prequel, really. If you thought Jar Jar was bad, Disney showed you how bad things could get. But they still made money on it. You know, Disney managed to do a bad job, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I think if you get it and it's good, just leave it alone, and maybe we don't need a second movie. W5DLC.
absolutely agree with that one. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what say you about our fine film from KE5I6?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, to start with, our sequel here just completely lost the vibe of the original one. The original one, obviously, with the short stories, kept it interesting. Even though we had the background story, we had the cute little stories, but yet it carried things forward, kept your attention. This felt like a rejected story, maybe for the original, and they decided to stretch it out over an hour and a half. And it was clear, or at least I believe it was clear. I didn't read much about it, but it felt like to me it was completely different writers, completely different producers, and the movie just did not have the feel of the original one. On top of that, it didn't have a great plot either. Pretty generic plot, relied a lot upon, jokes with innuendos and that sort of thing. Just wasn't a very interesting story. And, like I said, it's a pretty big story. It's basically, guy gets corrupted, looking for youth, living forever. We got the revenge story, and of course in the end, she gets her revenge, and that's really it on this story. And it's just a matter of what happens in between. And it's just a lot of how do we get to the end point. And, I know this is more third round, but it was just very much the look, feel, all of it just didn't have that vibe of the original. And on top of it, just didn't have a good story, at all. So it was just boring. And it was just, felt very childish in places. It felt like a bad episode of Power Rangers or something from the 80s on TV, or maybe that was the 2000s, but very strange. And once again, this is kind of third round, but even the parts of where they showed you the actual people in it versus the outer space scenes were filmed with two different styles completely that didn't match or even feel together. It was strange. And it really wasn't a true sequel. Yeah, it was about, the original one we had the orb. I guess this was saying this was a piece of that orb. But yet the original one told us the story of the Defenders, the ones that, the lady that ultimately defeated it, and they insinuated this was a generational thing. There was always one born that was designed to destroy this evil. And we didn't really get that in this one. Yeah, there was a lady in the end that defeated the bad guy, but she didn't really directly, and she wasn't part of that original clan. So it really wasn't a true sequel. It was like they just stole the name, decided they were going to do a cartoon with a lot of sexual content in it, and here you go. So just not all the feel of the original one. So very disappointing. So yeah, sequels, that's a problem. This is a prime example why sequels a lot of times don't work. You have different teams, people that don't have the original vibe or the original ideal trying to do their version of it. And typically it does fail. Or we have instances like we did with, which is already brought, the Star Wars, Disney, and even taking over the Marvel stuff as well. They come right out and said that, yeah, they hired writers that weren't particularly passionate about the original material because they thought that would bring unique stories. But instead, what you did was you made something completely different that just wasn't enjoyable to the original audiences that were going to expect something along those lines of the original. Why they think this works, I don't know, because there's so much proof over the years that it doesn't. Usually when sequels work, it's because it's designed or written by the original people that were passionate about it, and they really did want to continue it. So, yeah, it's a problem. The only things that are worse is probably reboots. And right now, this is the world we're living in the last 10 years. Lots and lots of reboots and sequels, and they're just, for the most part, aren't working. Occasionally we get a fluke and we get something that we enjoy, but unfortunately, they just typically don't work. Anyway, not a lot here to add. I think this one's a pretty clear-cut one. So, back to Nat, KB9SOK.
anyone else want to check in? Any late comers out there? And I forgot to ask Echolink if they wanted to check in. There's one person there. But we'll see. I'll ask for additional check-ins to give you a little extra time to contemplate the evils of your way. If you'd like to come join us this evening, come with your call sign now. Okay, I expected and suspected just as much. Yeah, I was totally disappointed in this film. More so than usual. I can usually, even with sequel films, I can kind of see a ghost of the original film in it, and you could potentially pitch a story and say this could have been a lot better, but like so much of science fiction films, frequently they just fall flat because the vision isn't complete, nor does it make a complete sense. That you don't have the world building that you need in order to make it happen. In this particular case, it's a series of short stories from the original, and it had a lot of engaging, rotating cast of characters that were fun, great music, interesting animation that went along with it. This had none of that. It was just done on the cheap, and when I read for the first time that it was direct-to-video, I thought, oh, that explains it all, and went through Canada to make that happen. So they were looking to just cash in off of heavy metal, and that is indeed everything that reviewers said, calling it derivatives. We've seen all this before. Someone mentioned Power Rangers. Yeah, basically this looked like one of those things. Or a very, very, very bad Johnny Quest episode, which I don't want to demean Johnny Quest because they had good stories. This was not. So there you have it. As far as sequels are concerned, yes, they glob on to the success of the first film. Generally, they already have hung on to the sets. They can negotiate sometimes ahead of time if they think they have a, quote, hit, end quote. The cast is already signed up for a sequel, so they have every intention of making a sequel. And those things generally do not work out. They are lesser products than the originals. Now, there have been exceptions to that, but even the exceptions are exceptions. Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. There's a great example where it actually, the second film is superior to the first. They take the characters, they world build, they make it bigger, they make it more exciting, they put more conflict in. We had a happy ending at the first one. The second one was a cliffhanger, but it made sense because these were considered technically like movie serials. At least that was the original intent. And they had enough money to go ahead and produce it and make it work. Plus you had Irving Kershner, I think, was the director of the second one, who was actually superior to George Lucas. And what's interesting is, from a Star Wars perspective, Empire Strikes Back is generally considered the superior of all those films. Everything else outside of the original film pales in comparison. Those two films are the only two that really shine as far as the Star Wars series go, and Empire is generally considered, with some argument, to be the better of the two films. You got a decent director. Another example of that is Alien. In Aliens, the first film was spooky and scary and interesting, but the second one amped it up and did an excellent job. That is a scary film to watch, and it still is today. The rest of the Alien films that have come out since then have been not so good, although I have to say Ridley Scott has done a nice job with the television series that he's done, Alien Earth. I think that's quite good. So it tells a story and explains how things happen. And I liked it. Not everybody did, but I did. But as far as the movie franchise is concerned, Aliens beats out Alien every time. And then the third one I have as far as good sequels is, of course, Star Trek and Star Trek II. Star Star Trek II was done as on the cheap, and I expected it to be terrible, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I actually prefer the first film, Star Trek the Motion Picture, even though most people hated it. I think it was more Star Trek. But I will succumb to and give credit to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, as a better made film, more entertaining for the audiences, and became sort of a blueprint for everything that came after that. The Star Trek films have been very uneven through the years. Some of them have been very good, some of them have been very bad. There doesn't seem to be, well, there's been mediocre too, I suppose. So as far as sequels are concerned, considering it was derived from an original television series with stories told week after week, in this case we separate them out by 2 and 3 years, it's done okay. But again, the best sequel was Star Trek II, and considered the superior of all the films. Now, with saying that, let me reset. Getting back to heavy metal and talking about the first film versus the second film, heavy metal kind of inspired other films that came along. We have Avatar, which is sort of, with the flying stuff and all that, which is towards the end of the first film was a great idea. Blade Runner and Fifth Element have that gritty style. That appeared in one of the stories. We even got a little bit of 2001: A Space Odyssey in there. And I liked particularly tying it all together with a short story format. They jettisoned all of that. But in this case, what made heavy metal one so good is, again, because of science fiction, it's the world building, which can make or break good and bad science fiction. Well, they had excellent world building, and I think that's what helped the film. We had some decent acting in it, good music, and that's what worked. The second film had none of that, and that's unfortunate. Okay, let's see. Movies that sucked with sequels. Beverly Hills Cop, great film, love that film, one of the best from the 1980s. My favorites, including all of the scenes from Detroit. In fact, I was living in Detroit at the time that they were making the film, so I recognized all the streets and could name every building that was in it. In fact, the day that they were filming some of the street scenes there with the chase scene at the very beginning of the movie, I couldn't get to work where I needed to be because they had Jefferson Avenue closed for all those great scenes. So I'd been there just less than 24 hours before that, so very, very recognizable. Beverly Hills Cop 2, not so much. I don't watch it. I don't care. I've seen the first one a zillion times. I've seen the second one once. The Blues Brothers, another film from the 1980s. I've seen that film a million times. I love it. I cannot watch Blues Brothers 2. It is unwatchable, even though it's got many of the same people. It does not have the spirit or feel or vibe of the original. And I think it's because both of those films have a little bit of a rebel element to it. The people that are involved, everyone wanted those movies to be a success. The sequels to these two movies were looking for the money machine and didn't care, and so neither of those films had heart. And all the subsequent sequels with Beverly Hills Cop is limited and unimaginative. I do not watch them. So those are my comments on all of that. Well, it might be an early evening. I did take a nice nap. I actually took a 2-hour nap when I got back here, and I'm more awake than normal, but I can certainly go to bed early. Does anyone have any other comments they want to make, or about sequels, or anything? Or have a suggestion for a movie for next week? I am actually going to look for something. If nobody has any comments, I'm going to look for a mainstream movie that's available for free. We need a break from some of these terrible films. I think we're getting post-traumatic stress syndrome from watching these films. But at any rate, anyone have any additional comments, come with your call.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato.
W5BLT. Bill, go right ahead.
Well, I do want to say that I hated the music for this movie, and I didn't care about the characters. I hate it when they do these sequels or movies and they just drop you in the middle, like you're supposed to be compassionate, which really makes Star Wars interesting to me because we did kind of drop in on Luke and everything, but somehow they managed to build the characterization, and a lot of movies just don't do that. The other thing that I was going to say, as far as the TV series that I was very disappointed in, was the Battlestar Galactica remake. It was on Sci-Fi, I think in the early 2000s. I watched about 2 or 3 of those and then bailed on that. I knew I was going to be disappointed in the first 20 minutes of it, but I kept thinking it would get better. The Battlestar Galactica reboot in the early 2000s disappointed me, and that's all I got because I'm tired. Whiskey 5 BLT. Back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. And interesting comments. Let's see. I'm trying to think of his first name. Moore is the guy who produced it. He was who did Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. I'll disagree with you a little bit. And you know, we all have our personal opinions about shows. I liked the rebooted Battlestar Galactica. I can't think of his first name, but Moore, who did this, he was the executive producer on this, had worked on Star Trek, and I think he worked on Deep Space Nine. I know he worked on Next Generation, and done a really great job. He's also the guy who's done For All Mankind, the fictional version of the Space Race, which I think is an excellent series. Each year it gets better. And Battlestar Galactica, as it went, did 4 seasons. Each season got better, in my estimation. And one of the things is he did a 4-page treatment and discussed how this was not going to be about monsters and aliens, although it would be the Cylons. It was mostly about the struggles of people that were being displaced, and the story is there. And that's essentially what it was. And it's intriguing, or it can be boring. It depends on your point of view. I have just recently seen it. It's now showing on Pluto TV as the series, and they're running it in order over those 4 seasons, so you can just kind of put it on and play. So I have a recent memory of it, and those episodes are quite good. In my estimation. They can be heavy, and they are dark, literally and figuratively, but I think they're well done, and I enjoy them, and there are some reflections of real-time events. But everybody's a little different. Now, I love the original series of Battlestar Galactica. It was a little too light for me, and there were a few times that it was comical to awkward comedy that I didn't think was all that good. But Dykstra's special effects, the idea of what the show would be, which is almost a religious thing, and then that fantastic score. Oh my God, one of the best scores ever written for television series. I get goosebumps every time I watch it. And if you get a full orchestral version of that, which is commonly done, get a good orchestra, man, it is just fantastic. It is Stu Phillips did the music for that, and he considered it the best work he ever did, and I do too. I think it's just fantastic. So I love both series for completely different reasons. They just have the same name. As they say, Galactica and name only, Gino. So, with that, anyone else have any final comments? I think we pretty much beat this dead horse, but if you got something, or you got a suggestion for next week, I'm going to leave it, I'm going to look for something, but if you've got something you definitely want to see, I'll see if we can put it on the list. I try and make it, the only thing I ask for is that it's available for streaming for free right now. That's the only thing. So any final comments, please come down. Okay, hearing none, we're going to close it out. For anybody who's listening did not check in or is a regular and just didn't feel the urge to get on tonight's net, which is, I understand, send me an email or look in your inbox if you already have your email for next week's movie. I'll find something that I think we'll enjoy that is probably something either experimentally really good or something that we're familiar with that we might want to talk about. Revitalize this demoralized spirit. We've seen a series of really bad films. That wasn't intentional. You always try to do something that might be fun or different or somehow engaging, but we've not had that, and it's been kind of unfortunate. We know bad movies, sometimes bad movies can be a lot of fun. But if you're listening and you don't get my email on Sunday mornings, send an email to my call sign. That's Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray KE5 ICX @yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list, and I will include you in all subsequent emails with the info on the movies. You can also go to Afterglow Movie on Facebook, and you can find it there. So with that, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. I'm going to go to bed and enjoy a well-earned night's sleep. And we'll try this all again next week. Thanks for checking in this evening, and we'll do this all again next Saturday. This is KE5 ICX Clear. We're going to just do a short one tonight. Bye-bye.
One last comment. I will give it another go. Since it's on Pluto, I will, based on your word, I will give that series another go with different expectations. I think that was my problem. And so anyway, that's all I got. I'll let you go. W5PLT.
All right, Bill. Well, I hope you can stick with it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I will be the first to admit that. And if you're an original Battlestar Galactica fan, it's a different animal. It's a different type of show with a lot of the same stuff. I really enjoyed it. If you get into the later seasons, season 2 or 3, the appearance of the Pegasus, which was a, believe it or not, with the original with Lloyd Bridges, was a very popular 2-part episode. That actually was in the top 10 of all-time most-watched television shows for about 10 years. It was well-liked and well-received. This show, Battlestar Galactica, the new one, actually has the Pegasus make an appearance for almost an entire season. And it's the combining of these two crews together and trying to work together with completely different ideas that really does work out really well. They even did a whole movie. In fact, I went and watched it in the theater. They actually put it out in the theater as a 2-hour movie called Razor, R-A-Z-E-R, Razor, R-A-Z-O-R, I think it is, which is a slang term they use in the film. And it was quite good, and it's creepy. It is very creepy, and very interesting as to how that plays out. There's a scene when the crews initially get together where the exec from the other ship, Pegasus, tells a story while they're getting drunk in the bar, and it sounds like a made-up story. It's very disturbing when you hear it because he ends up executing one of the crew members, and that's very dark. And he says, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to get your attention." And everybody just looks at one another and says, "No, this is not the case." And the commander could be nuts. It's a female in this. Played by the gal who played Ensign Rowe. I can't think of her name on Star Trek, The Next Generation. So, and she held that role very well, very commanding. And she's the admiral, not Adama, which means she's in command, which makes it even more interesting. Good stuff. At any rate, I could go on, but I won't. So, good night. See you all next time. This is KE5ICX. Now I really am clear.
73 W5FC.